Okay, 7:10 with the Franklin Township Trails Committee meeting for October 13th, 2021. I got it right this time. All right, so let's call the meeting to order. Roll call. Jim Kuligowski, Chair, Trails Committee.
Vanessa Jones, Vice Chair.
Chuck Martin, Secretary.
Maria Lusky.
John Hurling.
Tom Lewis, member.
Mark Fortin, member.
And Tara.
Oh, that's me. Sorry. Tara Kenyon, I'm here.
Okay, I guess that's it. So we can look at the approval of the September 2021 minutes. Anyone have any issues or questions to Chuck about the minutes?
They look good to me. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes for September 2021, aye. Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The minutes are approved as is. Public comment. Tara, is there anyone on the line?
Yes, we have one person. Hang on one second here.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like we have a call-in user. The phone number begins with 609-865. Are you there?
Okay. Just clarification, do we always need to make a motion to open the meeting to the public? I mean, do we need to, or?
I believe so through Robert's rules. I
Yes.
think we're required to do so.
Okay, let's make a motion to, someone want to make a motion to open the meeting to the public?
So move.
Okay, all,
I
and
second.
second?
Tom gave you the second.
Oh, Tom, okay, all right. All those in favor? Open the meeting. to the public?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The meeting is now open to the public.
Okay, so, the public person is gone now.
We didn't scare them away, did we?
I don't think so, no. They're not here. If they come back, we can go back.
Okay, we'll make a
I'll make
motion
a motion to close the meeting to the public.
with the caveat that if someone comes back, we can open it as open again.
Right.
All right. Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right. Item number 5 on the agenda, the Pathways and Trails Plan. We can start 45 minutes. All right, let's say if we start 7:13, but if we say 7:15 to 8 o'clock, how's that?
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so I sent around the edited Appendix 2, which it basically captures all the work we've been doing over the last few months. What I sent you is just the municipal projects because making the maps and doing the measurements and editing all the text, took some time, obviously. So I focus on getting the municipal projects done, and then I can move to the county projects. But it's also good to try it this way to see what you guys think of the format and everything. And then I also sent around the vision and goals that we had done a long time ago, because that's part of the plan. So to see, what your thoughts are on that, because I figured in case we had extra time, may as well have something else to review. So I will share my screen so that it's on here and we can all look at the same thing. And let me just do this. This is easier. So did everyone get a chance to look at it? I guess I should ask.
Yes.
Briefly, yes.
Okay. All
Yes.
right. So I guess like the best thing to do, we don't really have to go through it like piece by piece because we've already gone through it unless you prefer to do that. But I was guessing maybe what we could do is everyone, or if you see anything glaring that needs to be fixed, or you have a comment or a question, we could do it that way. Does that work?
Sure.
Anybody have any questions? Anyone see anything completely wrong or?
I have some couple of citizen comments. One is some of the maps, it was not exactly clear where these locations were. There's the street names are sort of unclear. I think it's page 4. It appears to be Como Drive. Is the street.
Okay.
It's just a matter of trying to make things clear, but then Diana made a note of these that eastern, with respect to the bike path, the improvement that the eastern bike path is terrible.
The improvement to the Easton bike path.
Yeah, that the Eastern Avenue bike path is not in good shape. Not the tow path, but not Demont Lane, but Easton Avenue. There's sections of Easton Avenue where the bike path is not really as good as it should be.
Okay, you know what? Let me do this. Is this okay, Chuck, if I just say something? Because this will help me make sure I'm capturing all the comments correctly.
Sure.
The
Okay.
mapping. Since you brought up the mapping, I was kind of chatting with Tom about this before. So the mapping, I did the mapping using the New Jersey Conservation Blueprint, which allows me to basically kind of see some of the environmental constraints and where the
Sure.
preserved lands are to go through and things like that. So what I was mentioning before is that these maps, I think before they were previously done on like Google Maps or Google Earth, I also wanted to use the conservation blueprint because it would allow me to do like a tighter measurement in like the absence of using GIS software. So my
Sure.
question is this, one thing to think about is the maps the way they are in here right now, I can give these to our IT department and they can use these lines and measurements and put them in using GIS data, which will be, I can then say, okay, make sure that the road layer is highlighted better, or, so we can have IT go through and make these maps using GIS, which will allow us to choose which layers we want to put on, like if you want the road map clearer, for example.
Well, I want to say that the mapping you've done here is terrific. It's so much better than the original Trails plan, where we
I appreciate it.
figure out
I
where
don't,
anything is.
thank you. I don't have GIS, so that's why I like this conservation blueprint, because it's almost like having GIS.
Right. And I think the size of the maps is, of course, much better because you can figure out where you are and figure out what's going on. So I hope that these will continue at this level of resolution and this size in the final document.
Yeah.
If not even bigger or whatever, but this is such a great improvement to the original Trails plan
Oh, good. I guess the question is, so if we, just sticking on the maps for a minute, so if we had IT redo them, then there's two ways we can do it. If you like having the map in like it is right now, right under the text, then the maps really kind of have to stay at this size, maybe a tiny bit bigger. If we have IT do it, we can have them make full page maps that are then after all the text. So that's another option.
I don't know. I think as long as they're clearly labeled, to me, embedded in the text is fine at this level of resolution. But others may feel differently. So
Yeah, what do you guys all
I
think
guess
about
no
that?
surprise, Mr. Contrarian over here. I guess I'm looking at this first map A1 and I know the area, so I know what we're looking at, but I can't read anything. Even when I zoom in, I can't read the block lot numbers. They're blurry.
Well,
And
right,
I can't read there's no street names, so I don't really know what we're talking about. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm a little surprised. I think in the end, I thought we were going to not include this crossover because we learned that we couldn't. Like this parcel's not allowed to cross. I thought we learned that that's not an approved use because it's preserved farmland.
No, the preserved farmland is the brown area.
Brown? Okay, but yeah, I thought we had taken this off the table and we were just going to run down Van Cleef, finish Van Cleef, and we weren't going to do we weren't going to cut across any part of this. I thought when we got to the point of talking about this, we'd taken this off the table. That was my recollection of the discussion. I guess I'm surprised to see this here.
That's not what I have in my notes, but I mean, someone else can jump in for sure. That's not what I had in my notes.
Yeah, I thought we had removed this in the end, and we had agreed that just continuing all the way down Van Cleef to Blackwell's Mills Road was what we thought was the most viable, and then we continue through 6 Mile Run from there with whatever agreement we might be able to discuss with the DEP. And that we wouldn't try and run close to South Middlebush in the northern section anymore.
I think you're right, Mark. I seem to recall that in the discussion in terms of going completely down Van Cleef Road.
Yeah, we were gonna go from
Blackwell Mills.
Amwell to Blackwell's Mills via Van Cleef, and the mayor seemed to give us an indication that finishing, that one, because it's already halfway down there, and going past that halfway point, past the little water way, there's like a pond on one side and stuff, but getting past that would be far easier than what we're proposing here. And so I thought we had decided to revisit this and remove it.
That's for Amwell. So we have there that will be Amwell Road removed, but this one is, let me see what this one is. Amwell Road. Okay. Okay, so maybe this one should not be in, which we can remove it then.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. That's why we're looking at it. It's not a big, we just want to make sure we get it all
Wait, this is the
right. But as a high level overview, I think on many levels, this map looks better, but the only problem is going to be the fact that using whatever layer this is, it doesn't include street names, and I can't read the block lots, and having all the little property parcel grids, I feel like clutters it a bit and makes it harder to read and figure out where you are.
I agree. I can't follow it.
So using the conservation blueprint, that I don't have the ability to to change the layers. So the labels that they have on there, that's like, I can't enlarge them or put, you know what I mean? So the way to fix that is to have our IT department take these maps and basically digitize them into a GIS format. Because with the conservation blueprint, I can only use the layers that they provide, you know what I mean? But the good news is, the way that these maps are now, this is what they would ask for in order to make GIS maps. They would say, okay, we need the maps and the measurements and this and that, so I can give that to them, and they can do that.
It seems like a great idea. I don't want to not, because I think with what you have to work with and the limitations provided, you did a terrific job. I think I like the blue. I can see what we're talking about. My concern is that because I know what I'm looking at, I know where we are, but it would be really hard to just for anybody to just pull this up and without knowing what we're talking about, it would take them a while to figure out where the heck we are, I think.
Yeah, I agree too. I could navigate on these maps because I sort of knew what we were talking about. We need good labels for street names.
Right,
and I guess blocked lot numbers might be important as well.
They'll be important later, like in the nitty-gritty implementations, but I don't know if they're as important now in trying to describe to the general public where this is going to go. I think things that are connected to street names and that kind of stuff will be far more important than the block lot for giving the public a general idea of where we're proposing things. Once it gets into a real discussion on implementation, the block lot will be helpful for sorting out all the other things that need to come into play, like permitting or surveys and things like that. But my suspicion is initially from the broad general public who might try to digest this, if somebody's curious to go in and read, that initially that will be a lot of noise to wade through, relatively speaking, and not relevant to their search. But that's one man's opinion.
Well, for what audience is this document? I mean, it's clearly for the general public, but also it's a document that I assume will be used by township planners and by council members who, get a call from the neighbor or, about this, and a council member might, want, more detailed information.
Yeah, I mean, and I think they
So-
could dig in and get that. I think that doesn't, I don't know, maybe that doesn't to me need to be what's in here. It should be something easily accessible and broadly understandable. And if people want to then dig further and get more information, they can do that by contacting somebody else or asking for more information or whatever. But like, I thought this was sort of a broad, it's the township master plan that this is an addendum to. So it's going to be sitting out on the township website for, anybody, Joe and Jane public, to go in and read and try and understand what we're suggesting, right?
Well, I certainly hope so.
Tara, if we went to the IT version that you're talking about, would that include then the names of the streets and be easier to read?
Yeah, we could definitely have them do, we have a lot more flexibility in asking for what we want when we are using our own GIS layers, which is like the data that we have. So yes, I mean, I would assume our GIS department would probably prefer to make it as a full page map, because that's how they typically do maps, but we can ask that they be embedded into the, I can ask for a smaller scaled down version to put in the plan if we want it embedded within the text.
Well, I'm talking about though, the names of the roads or streets.
Yeah, we can, if that's the one thing though, I mean, if we really want it to be clear, the map to be very clear and, able to read everything super clearly, it should be a full page map. Because
Okay,
having it at this small scale is very difficult to do from a mapping presentation standpoint, because the size of the text starts to actually become out of scale with the lots, and it also starts to kind of block things. So having it as a full page map might be more appropriate for the clarity purposes.
good.
My vote would be to remove the individual block lot divisions and not include that layer, but to go to just street names and broad view of the streets. I would not have the individual block lots displayed, shown. I wouldn't show the subdivisions and I wouldn't show those numbers. That's my vote.
I guess I would prefer to at least see property boundaries
Yeah.
illustrated. Among other things, from my own perusing of the township maps, I mean, sometimes you can figure out where you are by just the shape of the property, and then you can get information from there, which I would find personally useful.
Yeah, we can have the property lot lines on there, and we can remove the block and lot labels. So that we can definitely do, remove the block and lot labels. I do think it's important to have the property outline there, because you want to see how people are going to ask or want to see, how close is this trail proposed to my property or to the existing trail or to a parking lot or whatever the case may be. Also having the block and lots on there, even if they're not labeled, that's what allows us to make a more accurate, depiction of where it is and to do the measurements we need. We have to have that parcel layer on there in order to do that.
Tara, do the colors mean anything, or is there a code that they could have, or?
They do. So that's another shortcoming of the New Jersey Conservation Blueprint, which there aren't many because it's a really good program. But when you're doing it doesn't really allow you to make a presentation style map. So I don't, where if I was using GIS, I could put a north arrow on there and a scale bar and all the things that a map is supposed to have, including a legend.
Right.
I can't do that on the Conservation Blueprint. But if we do, we use GIS, we can then,
Yeah.
put all those elements on there as well.
I definitely think you need to have a compass rose on every map, so
I agree. Yeah, 100%.
their face are looking at, but also I sort of like the colors because our township is divided up into a lot of different properties, like state park, county property, township property, as well as private property. And I think that's just an important a piece of information to convey, even on this broad scale plan. So I would be in favor of that, and also including, of course, then a legend, a color legend.
Yeah.
On-
Absolutely. I agree with that. And that was one thing I was frustrated about, that I couldn't get the legend on there. So the green properties are the preserved lands. And then when I was making the trail lines, those pink ones were not popping up. And I'm like, no, I know those are preserved. So there's another layer in the conservation blueprint just called publicly owned lands.
Mhm.
And I think that those are properties that were either used only with township money, so they're not on like some type of inventory where they got the original data from, or they have an easement on them, a conservation easement or something. So they're both different types of preserved lands, basically.
So the pink and the green are preserved,
Yeah, yep.
and the brown is preserved farm?
Farm, yep.
I think that's important. I think that's important to show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think my original thought was having these maps, having our GIS people turn these into other maps. Because it just makes more sense. They have the software they need to make presentation maps, which are what should be used.
Can there, it seems like there's farming on some of the open space. Is that correct? If the green is open space or preserved space,
Mhm.
there's still farming on that, right?
Well,
There's-
yeah, our open space, a significant chunk of our open space is leased back to farmers.
Yeah,
I mean, we got so many different kinds of agreements with respect to open space and farming. And other open space is simply farmland that is restricted to in perpetuity to only being farmland. I mean, we buy for the development rights
right.
to it. So, and then we've got, I mean, there's this whole issue with the deer hunting, uh, in different areas of there. We have township permitted deer hunting. We have township owned development rights on farm property where the farmer leases out their farm to hunting clubs. It's just, that's, and those are important issues that have to be, they're going to be under constant discussion until the next century, I imagine, the way things are going. So,
I'm sorry, I just want to, and I want to hear, I just want to make sure I get what I'm supposed to be moving, because I want to keep moving it forward. So for the maps, I guess my thought is, from what I'm gathering from everyone, I'm going to have IT make them into GIS maps.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
and are they going to be full page maps or embedded maps?
that's the question. Do you want full page maps or embedded maps? What do you prefer better?
I'm good with either one.
I think full page.
Would
Would
it make
the
sense?
embedded map have all the street names?
Either one can have the street names, but when the maps are this size, we can only make street names up to a certain size, because they're going to start interfering with the actual, data on the map. So we can only go so big when they're a smaller size like this. But yes, we can do it both ways. It's just that, you're not going to be able, from like this distance back behind your computer, it's not going to be much more clear. But if we do a full page map, yes, we can make it big, but it's going to come after all the, I mean, I guess we could do a full page map after all the text, but that might look a little weird. You probably want to put the maps at the end of all the text.
Can you have the
Yes.
small ones like you have now with the text, and then have the bigger versions at the end to see the larger size?
I think we probably could. I don't see why not,
So why don't we get a sample of each and then we can decide?
Okay.
And quite honestly, I think it'll all work out, like either way.
Okay.
I guess if we see a half a page map, we can see if that's clear enough, and if not, go to a full page.
Okay. And full page. Okay, got it. All right. Okay, so that's good. And then we want, yeah, okay, okay, so that's good. I'm taking those notes. All right, so that clears up the map, that clears up the mapping for me at least, so I can at least start to get GIS on board with that. Okay, add all map elements, okay, and then I feel like there was something else that I was supposed to say here. It'll come back to me. What about the text, like the format of the text?
I'm okay with it.
Does it have the essential information that a citizen would need in order to interpret the map? I guess that's the.
Yeah, I mean,
Is
it has, so it has
is-
what the proposed improvement is, the surface type, Y, and the measurement. So I think that that would basically cover it unless there's other things that, you want to add on there.
I see there's some blanks on page 7 for the Treptow Road.
Oh,
Martinez
yes.
Drive. Yeah,
Yeah.
just for measurements, I guess. I don't know if you have the measurements or if they have to be determined or.
So let me go down to there. So there was two areas in here when I was going through that I do need more feedback from you all, because when I was starting to do it, I'm like, oh, I think we missed. Okay. So one is on Inman Park, right? I'm just going through in order here. Oh wait, no, that's my question for AT. Okay, Negri Napodi. So here's the questions I had. So we talked about that the proposed improvement would be to refurbish the handicap accessible trail, and in my notes, I have extend beyond the bird blind, but I don't have to where. What was the thought of where are we extending it to? Because in order and then I can make the measurement. So once I know where we're extending it to, then I can do the proper measurement. So that's this map here. So that's
what page is that, Tara?
That is page, well, the text is on page 5 and the map below it, it's map A7. So in my notes from when we were talking about this, I have just extend beyond the bird blind, but I don't have in my notes, like, was there a destination that we're extending it to? Or are we linking it to somewhere? Because once I know that, then I can measure it all out.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Is there further discussion of the parking lot that I was requesting to be put
Yes.
on Bennett's Lane?
Yep, the parking lot's in there.
I see P for parking here, but in the text, I don't see any.
Yeah, the text, we
Their
talked about the
purpose.
ADA parking.
It's there.
Under purpose, the proposed parking lot is under purpose.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, got it.
So, but in terms of the existing trail, I guess, I mean, it's something we can discuss now. I just don't think we discussed it. Where do we want to, like, when we say extend beyond the bird line, extend beyond the blind.
Bird line, yeah.
I can't, where approximately, like where to, or did you have a destination in mind? And then I can go ahead and finalize that.
Well, perhaps the intention was to extend it, beyond past the bird blind to a point beyond the pond where hikers could then walk, see the trail beyond the pond. I guess the other question, this is an ADA compliant path, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, I mean, it would make sense to maybe extend that path at least partway beyond around the pond. Just because the blind does not give you total viewing angles of the pond itself.
So maybe what about extend it around the pond, and it becomes like a P almost, that trail, or is that not?
Or at least partway around, creating some type of observation spot on the west side of the pond that a person in a wheelchair could look and see what's going on.
Okay, what does everybody think about that as the end point?
It would be nice to have an observation area there. Maybe, if you're thinking about in terms of ADA compliance, even a small platform or something that a person in a wheelchair could safely orient themselves and look out over.
Are you thinking, if you're looking at the bird blind now, you're thinking about going on the path to the right and paving that path or crush stoning it up to?
I was just thinking about going straight.
Up the hill?
I'm sorry?
Up the hill?
Up the hill.
To the right?
And extend, turning the path to the right, along at least partway along the pond, so that a handicapped person could view the marshy area in the northern part of the pond, as well as the areas to the south side of the pond that are not really that visible from the bird blind.
So you're not talking about putting a new bird blind in just for the people with handicap?
Not really, no.
No.
I mean, the current blind needs work.
Right.
as it is, and it wasn't really. It could have been made a little more effective for birders and photographers, but. I just a platform that a person could get their wheelchair on from a ADA accessible path. I think would be a very nice thing. But
Okay. Is everyone on board with that?
Thinking if you go straight past, well, if the blind is a little bit on the right, but if you go straight up that path, it is a little bit of an incline.
Yes.
So we do have to look into that for handicapped, if someone does use some kind of wheelchair or device. And then going around the pond and then putting the blind diagonal, putting this platform diagonal to the current blind. Is that what you're thinking? Because we'd also have to put a ramp to whatever platform is there.
I guess I don't know if you could make it just at the same level as the path or not. But the thing is that among other things, the platform would give you a stable position for a person in a wheelchair, but also it would tend to remove high grass that many times in parts of the year grows up in that area that would block a seated person from seeing the water edge.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, that helps. Is anyone like completely against that or anything before I move on?
So actually, that part of the path is really a dam. It's what retains the water in the pond. And there is a culvert in the middle of the dam that allows the pond to drain into the stream that is a tributary of 10 Mile Run. But so it's actually a relatively narrow piece of land with lower elevations on the pond side and on the south side, on the other side of the path.
I'm confused. I didn't think that was where you were thinking of putting a platform. I thought you were thinking of putting a
That wasn't the platform. I was just thinking that the path would have to go over that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I don't know if that brings in another engineering challenge or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it should be a problem, but having dealing with a number of government agencies recently, you never know.
So maybe another thought would be just going past the blind on the right-hand side, following that trail and maybe looping that around or taking that further.
Yeah. In some ways,
It's
that might even get lower and wetter.
Because it could be a challenge. You're right. It is a dam there and it is much lower on the opposite side.
Right. Well, it's wetland. It's important wetland, in fact.
So I kind of see what Tara was talking about when we first started the discussion, that making the trail like a P, where you lead up to the pond and then it loops around. I'm just looking at Google Maps Earth and I can see that there's a trail there.
Right.
That
Like
what,
if
that what
you,
people wanted was, did you guys want to loop around that or just extend it, like to the end of where the pond kind of ends, I guess?
Well, there's a trail on the west side of the pond. If you from your cursor, if you go to the left, you see the corner, the blue line that sort of gives a boundary to the pond, a rectangular boundary to the pond area. I'm pointing at my screen like you folks can see me point, by the way. And that trail is it makes a right angle past the pond, heading sort of in a northeast direction, and then you see there's a right angle from there that goes sort of a southeast direction, and then another right angle to the left that heads to the north, and where it connects to the trails on the north side of the area. That was a path actually that John Park, the Audubon consultant, suggested we take out.
Right.
But
But
I
we
think-
decided to keep it in because it was such
Right.
a valuable around the pond type of trail.
I mean, I mean, birders in particular, I think and photographers, it's an important viewing area for them, that part of the path.
So we really don't have a good answer.
we can come back to it. It's not, the other thing I can talk to you about while we're here, since we're talking about Negri, is I did look into the ADA requirements. So it's one ADA spot is required for every 6 spaces. So in the original discussion we had, we were talking about 4 spaces. So we're not required to put an ADA spot in, but it's still good to have one. If everyone is still okay with that, then I'll remove that note from the text, but just wanted to let you know, for full disclosure, that it's not required.
So you're talking about the Skillman Road parking lot or the new parking lot on
The
Bennett's
new
Lane?
parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Bennett's Lane, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Bennett's Lane lot.
So for ADA requirement purposes, it's like I said, it's one ADA spot for every 6 new parking spaces.
Hmm.
We're only putting in 4, so
Yeah, that's an area that I mean, I'm not sure how we would make an ADA compliant trail in that area from that parking lot.
I don't know either. That'd be a lot of engineering and restructuring of all the
Yeah, it's
plants and.
it's a lot of wetland.
Right.
And it's
But
even designated.
we could still have the spot there. I know, I remember when I hiked the White Mountains and, you know, and I got to the hut after hiking for 8 hours and it was ADA accessible. And I was like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then I found out that people had lobbied and fought for that right. And they engineered special equipment to get them over those rigorous trails.
Mm.
And so I learned a lesson that day. So I definitely, support having the ADA spot, even if the trail's not compliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that woodland trail, the trail that goes through that woods there, it's really a neat trail. But it can be quite wet. It's actually covered with a blanket of moss, which is really rather cool. I would have a hard time seeing a person in a wheelchair.
But that's not for us to decide, Chuck. So I mean, we're just talking about a parking spot.
Okay.
Yeah, the one thing for the ADA, I mean, for an ADA spot, it needs to be stabilized. You know, we can't just have gravel there, of course, in the ADA, so we can make the rest of the parking lot gravel, but that ADA spot is going to need to be paved.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind. Yep.
Sure.
We don't have, I mean, I'll leave it highlighted right now because we're still kind of in flux talking about it, but that's just like one example. And there was one other spot. Oh, here we go. The truck tow. That's what we were talking about, Jim, right? What was it that I needed here? Existing, oh, okay. Yeah, so I need to get the measurements of the existing bike lane from AT because I was not able to figure out exactly how many feet the bike lane is. So that was just a note to me, like have to get that measurement because I think we have those measurements in our GIS.
That's the bike lane on Skillman or Bennett's.
No, that is on something's going off my computer. That was on Trupto and Martino Drive. We were talking about trying to connect to the existing bike lane.
Oh,
And I
okay.
just don't know on Demont how many feet that is.
Okay.
I guess, does anyone have other comments you want to address? Did you want to go? I mean, I don't know. How do you think is best to proceed?
Well, with respect to specific areas, I know Diana and I have been quite concerned for several years now, but this Weston Canal Road crosswalk. And in fact, there is no crosswalk. But you know, it would be a great improvement just to paint a crosswalk on the road at that point. That is, as we discussed before, is a very dangerous area.
Yeah.
for
Chuck,
people.
are you on page 8?
10.
I'm on page 10.
Okay, thanks.
Weston Canal Road is there's a right angle turn across the bridge from southbound traffic, and you've got dump trucks going and screaming around there at just a few feet from the crosswalk. And there are many hikers and bikers on the canal towpath that cross that area every day, and particularly on the weekends. And it's just it's an accident waiting to happen, a bad accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, that's a very dangerous intersection.
I think we're talking about page 11, by the way, not page 10.
The
It's
text is
picture.
on page 10. The map is on page 11.
Yeah, the page 11 is the picture, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
The text is on 10 though, which is like that is where he's referring, I think, to the crosswalk, which you're saying there's no crosswalk there, right, Chuck?
There's no crosswalk there. And I
There
believe
probably should be a blinking light there.
Oh yeah. I mean there should actually be a light with a push button
Right.
stop signal. But I mean, just literally painting a crosswalk across that would be a great start, on the roadside, and warning signs about, pedestrians have right of way. You know, you must stop for a pedestrian in a crosswalk.
Right.
Yeah,
Uh,
we
It's
did.
just,
So in the text there, we did say that the blinking advanced warning signal is proposed to alert motorists to approaching bikes
That's
and
right.
pedestrians.
glad to see that.
The thing about the crosswalk is I'm not, and I agree that a crosswalk should absolutely be there. But I think in terms of the site triangle distance requirements, I don't know that a crosswalk could actually go there. I don't even know that that crossing really should. If that crossing was being built now, I don't think it would be approvable because there has to be a certain amount of feet before crosswalk so that there's enough time to actually give motorists a time to stop. So that might be the reason there's not a crosswalk there, I'm wondering.
Really. Wow.
Hmm.
I'd have to
Well,
go
well, I
back
mean,
and
you know, it's the towpath. I mean, it's, you know,
I know.
Right.
That seems like a sort of backwards way to not do it. It's, you know, the problem is the safety's there. The towpath was there before the darn road. And I
Right.
don't care if the road wasn't designed right, then that's the road's problem, not the towpath's problem. People are using the towpath. So I don't
Agreed.
care what, you know, if they
Yeah.
can't meet the darn guidelines, well, maybe the county needs to rebuild the road. They probably don't want to hear that. Well, then too bad. Then break the rule and stick the darn crosswalk there anyways.
Yeah, I just don't know that's gonna be I just don't know that that's gonna be approvable. That's what I'm wondering.
I think we need
Wow.
to push it because frankly, I think it's ridiculous if it's not approvable. Then they shouldn't approve the road in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right, Mark. I think we need to, among other things, we need to make an issue out of this.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, that just because we think it might not be approvable just because of some guidelines, the heck with that.
Yeah.
Tell them I want them to rethink. I mean, I think it's a dangerous spot and it's their problem that they stuck a 90-degree turn
Yeah.
coming into that spot so you can't see what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
It's not like they didn't know the towpath was there. The towpath predates the road by 100 years.
Right.
Yeah. No, we've crossed that road for many of our 40 years at that spot, and it's always occurred to us that sooner or later somebody's going to die there. It's just it's
Yeah,
that
it's
bad.
unfortunate. I have to agree with Chuck though. It's unfortunately a fatal pedestrian accident waiting to happen.
Yep. It
Right.
is.
Yeah, I agree with you. But what my question is, I guess, and I'm just kind of wondering, without the so would the crosswalk would have to be coupled with the advanced warning sign because just painting a crosswalk there isn't going to,
Okay.
you know what I
Well,
mean?
I agree. I think
Oh, sure. I love the idea.
I
Put in the
think you need traffic
flashers
light
on
and
either
speed
side.
bumps, to be honest with you.
Or speed bump, yeah.
Yeah, put
Seriously.
in flashers well before on either side. When you're coming across the causeway, you have a plenty of sight line. It's easy to see what's coming. But when you make that turn from Weston, when you're paralleling the canal and turning that bend,
Right.
Mhm.
you can't you come barrel around that turn, and you
Yeah.
barely have any time to see if anybody's standing
Yep.
in there.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
And so
Absolutely.
that flasher should be well, you know, around the turn and well before flashing a warning.
before it
indicating
starts
that
the
people could
curve,
be around
probably.
that corner.
Well, Tara, is this like a state issue because it's a state park?
Well,
Is it the road that's?
I think it's a county road.
it's a county road. The park is a state park, so the state does have the requirement to keep the vegetation out of the shoulder and to make sure that there's no, because I feel like a few years ago, there was a time when they had to come out and trim back some of the vegetation because it was actually impeding the sight distance further. But it is a county road. So yeah, the county is responsible for the crosswalks, shoulder, sidewalks, road improvements, signals.
Okay. Just so, if you go if you're on the towpath in the Princeton area, they have some main roads that cross, but they have flashers, like it's more or
Yeah.
less, I'm not gonna say it's a crosswalk, but you press the button and then the light starts to flash.
Right.
People can slow down and then they stop for the pedestrians. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's listed in our text here that's like one of the things we're recommending is that advanced warning signal.
Right.
Yeah, because that's a necessity.
Okay, it's 8 o'clock. We've done our 45 minutes. Is there anything to, like we can, go a little bit longer if we're just going to wrap up or if we want to finish these appendix 2?
I think I just would like to note that as long as if we remove that first section, because I think that's now off the table. Otherwise, I think it looks great. I don't care if it's full maps or otherwise, whatever's most readable. I think the fonts you've used, the formatting you've used is great, Tara. You've done a fine job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's
I
just,
second
it's
that,
the
yeah.
only one that I
Yeah.
think we initially talked about it, and then when we came back to it later, we pulled it off the table because we all agreed that going all the way down Van Cleef was the more likely and more reasonable
Yeah.
option.
Right. Okay.
Mark,
So
just
yeah,
clarify, better option than what?
Then trying to cross this open space and then run tightly parallel to South Middlebush Road on the north section.
Got it.
Because we
Thank
already
you.
have on Van Cleef, you already have
Is
a
that what,
halfway,
Mark, that's
you
what we
know,
were talking about, taking Van Cleef and then possibly finding a way into 6 Mile Run? That was the exact same
exactly,
conversation?
exactly. And this was if we were gonna, if we weren't gonna use the Van Cleef section to try and finish it out to go to Blackwell's Mills Road and then continue the quote unquote north-south trail from there. This was the original proposal back in the day, but
I'm good now, thank you.
yeah, okay.
all right, so I'll remove that and then I'll work on the county projects while I'm getting IT to start with these maps. This way at least we're kind of like moving forward.
Yeah, just my opinion, everything else looked good and filling in the details, the maps look good. Anything to unclutter them a bit would be great, but whatever you think is needed, the property boundaries, whatever, I think keeping them sparse and clean is more helpful. But
Yeah.
otherwise, they look good. I like the colors. I like the layout. It's fine. What you did to draw things in is good.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So then I'll continue like proceeding with this format for the county projects, and then we can go over that next time too.
Got it. And I think we still have that open issue of at Negri, what we want to do with the trail by the bird blind.
Right. You want me to map it out with the ways we discussed it, and then we can look at it next time?
Sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, I guess, I guess another issue is that this proposed trail that I put in, the map 814,
Oh,
there were
right.
some recent developments of property acquisition there, that and also having discussions with a number of people. I would like to expand this hypothetical trail to include newly acquired county property, but also across Old Georgetown Road with the idea of trying to link it up to our Griggstown trails.
Okay.
I can't provide you, I can't give you a map. The map that's there, actually, it was just a hypothetical one that I drew in. It was literally a placeholder until we could go out and look and see the terrain and propose a more detailed and accurate type of trail. But
Okay.
I can work on that, and if I just don't want the issue to be closed off.
Yeah.
The only thing.
Absolutely. Okay, so I will start working on that part then. I know I sent around the vision and goals from a while back, but we can go over that next time too then.
Right.
If we have time
Sounds
or
good.
whenever we're done, yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Tara,
we'll do
thanks
that.
for all your good work.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Tara. I didn't mean to start right off on a critical note, but
No, that's
everything else
okay.
looked great. Everything else looked great. That first part was just the part that confused me.
No, I get it. Thank you. I
Sure.
appreciate it. There was so many notes. That's why I wanted everyone to look at it again, you know?
Okay. All
Good
right.
job.
Moving along to new business. Still no one from the public. I guess they.
Oh, let me double check. Yep, no one from the public still.
Okay. Then we can go to new business.
New business. I have to look at my
Update. Maintenance
agenda.
call with Carl.
Oh, yes. So I have my monthly maintenance call with Carl. They are finishing up mowing at Negri this week. They were mowing right along and everything was going good. And then I think they had a problem with some of their equipment. So they're finishing it up this week. the mowing there. The mowing at John Clyde Memorial Native Grasslands Preserve is complete as well. What else did they tell me? Still, they were working on a lot of flood related items, last month. So I think that's coming to a close. I don't think there was any other major updates. I think that was it. That's all we talked about.
Do they have a status on the trail marking, blazing with paint, or is that for the spring or?
So
time-
I know right after that meeting, I saw Chuck and I was like, I wonder where that is. So I have to follow up with them because the last I left them, the paint was ordered and the stencil. So I'm waiting to see what's going on with that. So I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, I have to say that I have some concerns about sending out Public Works by themselves to painting these markers. I feel like somebody needs to be with them who really knows where the trail should be and the trees that should be marked. Or I just do not have a great deal of confidence in them doing the job of themselves and really trying to get good sight lines from one tree to the next in both directions and so on.
I second that sentiment, Chuck.
Should we help them out and put like ribbons where we think those markers
Yeah.
should go?
Actually, the last time I was out with Carol Holtz's Girl Scout troop, we actually went through a section of the Simonson Brook Trail, and Kara and I got the Girl Scouts to put markers for the trees, and we, telling them, find a tree that you can see from this tree in both directions, and let's mark those trees clearly, and so on. It was a great educational exercise, I think, for the Girl Scouts and for the rest of us, for that matter.
Yeah, I think we can
and
do
so
that. I think
we-
if we go out ahead of time and mark the trees, like put cord ribbon around them to denote which ones we want, I think that is would be helpful. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
Or
is
we're
there any,
allowed to do
is
it
there any
ourselves.
reason why Public Works has to do this? Can't we
Right.
just take a darn can of paint and go paint it ourselves?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure we can. Yeah, for sure.
I'd be for that.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I
think that'd
think
be
that
the
we
best
wouldn't have to do
solution.
the ribbon thing and then take all the ribbon down and throw it away. We could,
Yeah.
it just seems like double work. I mean,
Yeah.
unless there's a rule preventing us from being the ones who get to go do this, which I understand. I work for government. We have weird rules, but unless there's a rule preventing that,
Yeah.
I don't see any. I'd be happy to go out and do it on the trails that I'm responsible for, even or
Yeah.
with somebody else to second my decision. But
Yeah.
I think I'd be willing to do that. I don't think it's a huge burden for me to do it. I mean, I don't want to put everybody else on the spot, but I'd be willing to do it.
No, I think as a committee, maybe we would be the best people to know.
Yeah.
Like I said,
I-
we have enough people to do this.
I can ask about that for sure. And then if they say, yeah, that would be great, then we can work out, a schedule between all of us to try and get it, done one by one.
I think we also need to agree on a uniform tree marking system that we can illustrate at the beginning of each trail for hikers. One of my concerns is that on some of our trails, we're going to have to mark some relatively small trees, and we're not going to be able to do it with the traditional rectangular blazes. For example, the symbol that the trail turns left or the trail
Yeah.
turns right, this sort of thing. I think we're going to have to devise our own system for that when we have no choice but to mark a smaller tree, which would not be obvious enough. And there may be diagonal slashes or two different colors of paint or something like that. But we need to think this through.
The standards that I had sent DPW as an example, so they understood what they were doing, is from the National Park Service. So it is those rectangles, and because they're kind of a standard system,
Yes.
but I think if we have to mark a smaller tree, I think we don't mark that tree and maybe we put up a wooden post and then put the markers on there. That's what the county did at the Sourlands, because I think having a different system might be confusing.
Okay, well, that's another solution, I think, which would be quite reasonable. It's just getting the posts in the ground, is.
Tara,
might
is it
be-
also possible to like attach like a wooden like square to the smaller tree?
Yeah, we
Or
could do
just
that. Yeah.
Increase the surface area?
Yeah, absolutely. We could do stuff like that for sure.
Maybe the compromise with DPW is we paint it, and if we find any spot where we still need a paint, but we can't find a good tree and we need a post, we could mark that spot with ribbon or something and find, and then DPW can come out and put a post in for us.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
Because that's the part I don't want. I don't want to go out there and have to dig out a shovel and set in a post proper and everything else. But to walk around with a brush and a can of paint, I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
Right on, brother.
I like it. All right, I'll follow up with Carl and see where that's at.
And Tara, would we use like a template, like
A
you know,
stencil?
So it's a stencil, thank you.
Yeah, so we can, there's two ways. So when I was reading how the National Park Service does it, they do it two ways. They either use a stencil or they buy, there's a brush you can buy that is the width that it's supposed to be. I think it's 2 inches wide. And then they kind of like estimate it. Now, these are park rangers that are, they're used to doing it, but they'll estimate. I think it's supposed to be 2 inches by 6 inches, maybe. I have it here. So, that's one way, or we can get a stencil.
What about the uniform brush? That sounds like a good idea too.
Yeah, so it's 2 inches, yeah, by 6 inches. So you would basically buy a 2-inch brush and then, that's what they recommend, 2 by 6. It's, so you can estimate it. I guess once you get used to painting a bunch of them, you're good at estimating it, but, yeah, or we can get a stencil and that's not too bad either.
My hand is roughly, and I guess varies from everybody, but you might want to, my hand's roughly 6 inches, give or take a 1/4 inch. So I'll probably, just hold it up and give a guess.
Yeah, so it'll be close. Yeah, it doesn't have to be exactly right, so that works. So maybe we just get the brushes that are the right width, and then it's like you're making one, stroke, and it's not going to be crazy wrong. I hope. I can't imagine it could be totally wrong,
A stencil would look very uniform, though. I wouldn't mind using a stencil.
Mm-hmm.
Because
We
I've
have-
So
seen
that's what we've done for
freestyle.
the Tour de Franklin. That's what we did for all the road painting. But just for a rectangle on the tree, it might not lay in so nice. It's easy to do it on flat pavement, but a stencil might be a little more challenging on a tree. I don't know, but it's certainly a fine idea. Just warning you, it's a little harder that way, maybe.
If
Well, I
it's
think we should see
plastic,
if-
it would just fit over it. It'd probably be okay.
I think we should see if we're able to do it ourselves. Then we can all discuss the
Okay.
details.
I'll find out.
All right, moving. Hey, this is interesting. What's this? Appointment of Chuck to what?
Yes, to the open
Yeah,
space.
what's that
advisory
about?
committee.
Hey, congrats.
Well, thank you. This actually came by a circuitous path. I really felt like we needed somebody on the committee who had an interest in biological issues, and I had actually proposed that they recruit some other people, but I got asked to apply, and I was actually surprised that I was accepted. But thank you very much.
Congratulations, and I think we're better for it. Nice work.
Well,
Yes, indeed.
thank you. We'll keep you posted. John and I together, I think, can maybe keep you apprised of what's going on.
Well, don't leave trails. We like your.
No, I have no intention of leaving trails.
We love
All
your.
right, well,
comments.
that's good to hear. I wouldn't hate to lose you to open space, Chuck.
Well,
Between you and John, maybe you can keep them in line over there, huh?
That's right.
all right, thanks.
All right.
John, that doesn't mean you get to leave us, by the way, John. We still need you here too.
So best
Right,
of
we
luck.
need
to you.
everybody.
All right,
Right.
Uh,
the comments.
I
on
had to leave the room. Did Chuck just get nominated or got noticed?
Yeah,
Yes,
you
I
were,
got-
we
I
were
got a
talking about how
notice.
you're both on there, but neither of you get to leave the Trails Committee, John.
Yeah.
That's not an excuse. So.
Yes,
Okay.
Chuck's an official member now. Yes, I got a
Okay.
notice and I said, oh, wow, Chuck. And then, yep, so he's on.
Congratulations, Chuck.
Oh, thanks, John.
We can't afford to lose any trail members. We won't even have a quorum.
No, he's staying. He'll definitely stay.
All right. Should we move on to the comments on Somerset County open space? and
Yes.
recreation Plan?
All right. So I reviewed the Somerset County, I've reviewed so far the farmland plan elements. I've reviewed the open space and recreation plan element. I really don't have to review the historic element, but I'm going to anyway, just because I figured may as well, since I made it through the first two and also the executive summary. So I just want to go through it with you all and see what, your thoughts are and if you have any comments. The farmland plan I went through with the Ag Advisory Committee, and we're going to submit our comments digitally on the website, which is really how they prefer. But basically, just to go through it really quick, I'll give you like what my thoughts are, and then you can tell me what you guys think, or if you want further information. So this plan, actually, we started working on this plan when I was working there. So in 2017, this was an idea to have this preservation plan consist of the 3 updates all together, and then discuss how they can leverage funding and how they can strengthen partnerships, identify obstacles between the 3 funding programs, and then kind of make it all work together. So the farmland plan has very strict standards that it has to meet. The state basically outlines every single thing that you have to put in your plan. So it's very easy to make I shouldn't say it's very easy to make a farmland plan, because you still have to do a lot of work, but you know exactly what you have to do, and you have to have those items in there for approval. So that was kind of a little easier. Green Acres also has some standards, but it's more, this is the category and this is the concept that we want you to discuss and think about, but it's not exact, like this figure has to be in there, you have to use this source, etc. So the county used 3 different consultants, each having expertise in either farmland, open space, or historic sites. They've been holding public hearings, and they are now at the point where they've released their final draft, which they did on August 24th. And since then, they've been having a series of public hearings across the county. So in looking at the requirements set forth by Green Acres, the open space and recreation plan does meet those. So that's a positive. I thought it was interesting. They added in a pretty good section about public health and the impact that having open space and not having open space nearby has on public health. They talked a lot about invasive species management, which I thought was good. And they did touch on the stewardship of historic resources that are on county-owned spaces, which that has been a conversation that has been having, across the county for many, many years. So that was kind of touched on. So I went through and just kind of separated my comments into general and other things. So general, the entire plan is 876 pages long. So that's, when you put all 3 together, now you're not probably going to ever sit there and read all 3 in a row. Maybe you will. But together, that's what it is. The open space plan is 192 pages. One thing I found that was on page 46, they discuss all of the open spaces with trails by municipality, and the John Clyde Memorial Preserve is completely missing from there. So that we have to get that comment in. So they add that in there. I did really like the linkage they did to public health. I thought that was important, and that's missing from a lot of plans. So I appreciate that. They also used the conservation blueprint, it looks like, for many of their maps. Now, they do have GIS capability, so I'm not exactly sure why some of them, but the ones that are done in the conservation blueprint are difficult to read. So they should most likely convert those to GIS, and that was one of my comments there. Some of the interesting statistics from the plan that you all might just be interested in, and these are just factual, but I thought you might be interested. You can see there 42,543 preserved acres in Somerset County, which is 22% of the total county land area. Of that, 34,170 are preserved as open space. I did find some discrepancy in the numbers in the farmland plan and the open space plan. They don't match up. They're slightly off. So I'll send that comment in and just say, you know, the numbers are the same. So they should be the same in both plans. I thought it was interesting that there's 89 football and soccer fields in Somerset County. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. I didn't realize that. So you know, when I saw that, I was like, okay. So since 1997, $310 million have been collected, but 54% has been spent to date. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just interesting to know that there is money in that fund for open space funding. It's about half of what's been collected since 1997. And in Franklin Township, up until 2018, over $10 million has been spent in Franklin from the county on open space. I really, really liked that in the previous plan, which was done in 2001, the metric that they used for success was solely how many acres have we preserved, and that's what mattered, how many acres. So now they're really saying the metric they want to go by is the number of residents that are within 10 to 15-minute walk of preserved open space or recreation. I think that's a great metric to use, because having all the acres in the world is not going to be a big deal if they're not being used or taken care of. So I thought that was a really good way to approach it. There was a survey done in 2019 of municipal recreation directors and also a community needs survey as part of this plan, which I did not know about. But anyway, there was one done, so I think that's good. Interestingly, the community needs survey, their top 3 recreational programming were special events. So I guess that's like Franklin Day, things like that, for example, wellness programming and paddling. So that just like struck me as interesting, you know, that there's like this big recreation need for paddling. So I put that in there just so you all know. There are some references to Franklin Township in the plan. The first is that they specifically said they want to preserve an additional 1,800 acres of forest in the South Franklin Initiative, which really is like the Millstone Valley area. So that was, I think, good because they're looking at preserving core forest. Franklin is in the top 3 municipalities for preserved acres in the county. So Franklin has 27% of the county's preserved open space is in Franklin Township.
I think that's really an interesting number.
Yeah.
Because if we account for what sounds like a quarter of the county's open space, but we only account for less than 10% of the monetary outlay.
Right. Yes, that's a good
I mean,
observation.
part of that's property value, probably in terms of development property values and what they need to spend in order to acquire properties and preserve those development rights, I guess.
That, yeah, part is that. And the other part is that Franklin Township spends a lot of township dollars on preserved land without taking county funding. So that's probably the other reason.
Wow, we should be taking more county money.
Right. And we know now that there is a lot of county money. So yes, I agree. The other ones are Rocky Hill and Millstone, which are obviously much smaller. The inventory of preserved acres in Franklin, you can see is below. It's 7,962 total, and you can see what's been spent. So you can see there that we preserved more acres with our own money than the county. The county did about 1,100. We preserved 2,200 with our own municipal money. Negri Napodi was listed in there as a hotspot for birding and a notable natural area. So this is one thing I found to be interesting. So they list a bunch of goals in their plan, which is typical of a plan. They want to preserve an additional 9,300 acres by the year 2030. So an additional 9,300 acres by the year 2030. That to me seems like a goal that may be very difficult to achieve, not impossible, but that seems like a lot by the year 2030. But that's what they're hoping, to get their inventory to a total of 24,000 preserved acres.
Yeah.
The next one I
can you
really love.
Excuse me, Tara, can you just clarify that? The 24,000 acres, what's that?
So if they preserve this additional 9,300 acres, they'll be at a total open space preservation of 24,000 acres total. So they have to preserve an additional 9,300 to get to that goal.
And I guess what's the number? Where the 24,000 before the 9,000 come from? Is that the?
That is, so of all their preserved lands, I have to go back to where, I think it was around.
Because I see 42,000.
Yeah, so
I-
14,071 acres. This is what is preserved as open space. So with the additional 9,000, whatever, 300, I guess it brings them close to that 24,000 acre goal.
And that's open space.
Our open spaces is in that 24,000.
Yes,
I mean, it's our open space, other township open spaces are in the 24,000.
yes,
This is countywide
right.
preserved inventory.
Yes, it still seems like a lot, but one thing I really liked, because we're talking about this with the Environmental Commission a lot recently with heat management and heat mitigation strategies, is adding environmentally sensitive lands and ecologically important lands to existing parks, regardless of if they're really small or not, because the county in the past has been like, we want to look at properties that are a certain amount of acreage or that have this special linkage already, but they do have a goal now to add 4,500 acres of environmentally important lands. So I think that's important because they're going to be looking at lands for maybe purposes of habitat preservation or heat mitigation, or blue acres, that kind of thing. So I think that's important. And then they have a goal of an additional 3,000 acres to preserve gaps in greenways. One thing I really, and I just talked about this too with the Environmental Commission, they quoted in there, identify critical parcels no matter how small. So the Environmental Commission is really going to like that because they're getting very focused on the heat island effect. The last few parts, the stewardship of the historic sites, there's not a lot of discussion on it. The county has a lot of property that have historic sites on them that are not, many counties, it's not just Somerset County. Many counties and municipalities do not have the money you need to maintain these historic resources. It's very difficult. There are extremely high standards. The materials are very expensive. So I think that probably needs a little more discussion because it's a matter of time before that becomes a serious issue. They did talk about some invasive species management better than the last plan, but they still need some more discussion in there. They didn't talk about, they made a mention that they're committed to frequent mowing and weeding, but they didn't do any discussion about prescribed burn, herbicide application, anything like that. So that should be discussed. And then there was like one paragraph in there about wildlife management, and that's a big problem in Somerset County, specifically the deer. So, and I know there is hunting on the county open spaces, especially in the winter. So that should be discussed. And then I put all of their goals at the end of this document if anyone is interested in reading them all. There's quite a few pages of them, but I put them in here to review rather than retyping. So that was what I got out of review of the plan. I don't know if anyone has any questions or anything they want to add.
Chair, I actually attended one of the Zoom meetings that the county put together in discussing this plan.
Right.
And that's the only way I found out about it. I actually got a copy of the plan, and boy, it almost blew up my computer it was so big. And,
Oh gosh, yeah, it's crazy.
but the meeting, there was a breakout session. They had the historic breakout session and open space breakout session and whatever. I attended the session on open space, which I think was with their land manager, which goes through Parks and Rec. And I brought up the proposal to put in this trail system through township and county open space that I just mentioned at the end of your Appendix 2 document.
Right.
And they were actually, and I emphasize this has to be a county and township cooperative project to do this. I think they were a little surprised to hear this, but I actually got an email back from the guy saying, "Hey, this sounds like a good idea." I will forward the email to you. I have the feeling you know these people. I can't remember the names because
Yeah, it was probably Tom Bacino. I think he forwarded me
That's
the
the guy,
email.
yeah.
Yeah, he forwarded it to me. Yep.
oh, he did forward it to you as well. Oh, great. The other thing about that session is that there was another person on the session who I think we may have an interest in connecting with. This is a faculty member at Raritan Valley Community College. Actually, she and and Jay Kelly work together. They have a program using student interns to do biological surveys and deer surveys. I'm sure you know Jay because the Environmental Commission has, I
Yeah.
think, contracted with him as part of our deer surveys and so on.
Yeah.
Anyway, she is a Jay and her are both former TAs with Diana and graduate student TAs, and they got very interested in meeting with us to discuss ways that they could work with the township here on these types of problems. And so Diana and I are actually going to meet with them on the 25th, and they may be a very valuable resource. Why am I blanking out on this person? Her name is, but she actually was instrumental here. Graduate research was involved in environmental hydrology, and she worked with rain garden development and this sort of thing, which I think Emily Stander is her name.
Oh, yeah, I know Emily Sander. Yep.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
she's
anyway,
actually on she's on our Manville Green team.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they were very interested in meeting with Diana and I, actually to discuss ways that they might work with the township on various problems that we have with our green space. So
Okay.
I'll let you know how that turns out, and maybe we can make some nice connections.
Perfect. Anyone have any other questions or anything on this? We can submit these comments digitally if we're interested in submitting comments on it. I'm going to present it to Open Space as well and get their thoughts, of course.
Tara, I was just curious, like, what was the involvement with Somerset County Open Space with this document?
Their Open Space Committee.
Yeah.
So when the plan was developed, they created one big steering committee, and that had members from their County Ag Development Board, their Open Space Committee, the Historic Committee, and then also all the staff members that were involved in that were there. So it was one committee, and it was representatives from all of them. And I'm sure the Open Space Committee must have reviewed this before, I'm sure.
You also mentioned before about the interesting trends, about the new metric of the 10 to 15-minute walk. I was just curious, is that, I think that's great. And I feel like some of the stuff that we read on social media about people complaining around the township of like, oh, there's a little patch of land and they're sucking it up.
Right.
That'll be a nice opportunity to have little patches of lands left in neighborhoods. But is that like, does that mean that there's going to be they're going to take away a focus for looking at bigger patches of land too? Because like I know, like you'd mentioned, there has been an effort to have large patches of land that can connect. Is that no longer a priority?
No, I think it's still a priority, and if it becomes available, that'll definitely still be a priority, but I think there was never a priority for the smaller pieces. It was always like, let's get the bigger pieces that we can get. So I think now they're kind of opening their practice to allow for that as well. And I think it's sometimes looking at, say there's a bigger piece of property and a smaller one, if they were competing for funds, which they're not, but say they were, it's like, let's not just discredit that small piece just because it's small. Let's look at it and see what are the values between the two. So I think that's what they're opening their mindset to.
Yeah, is that something that our open space committee is talking about and considering as well? Because this is the county right now, right?
This is the county plan. So the Environmental Commission, we are talking about looking at smaller spaces for making a recommendation at just like this, because of the health impacts and the ecological impacts. I think the one good thing for our open space committee, I mean, we have preserved acres that are really small. The last piece we preserved in 2019, we closed on it right at the, I'm sorry, we closed on it right at the end of 2020, was only 4 acres. So we do look at smaller pieces. So I think we've been open to that, but it's like the county levels, they really tend, one thing they did too, this is another example, in their farmland plan, their criteria was 25 acres for farmland and above. So if you were below, there was no exception. It was, if you were not 25 acres, the county would not participate in funding. With this iteration, they reduced it down to 10 acres. So I think they realize it with all types of preservation. But I think our committee has kind of always, understood that.
Yeah, Tara, it's kind
It's
of
4
listed
acres
here.
still seems like a lot to me. I mean, I guess I was inferring from this county piece that they would be considering half acres. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, I think that that's where they're going for. I mean, a half acre is really small, but I think that they could definitely look at that. I think previously, I mean, the county park commission, they tend to preserve properties that are, 50, 60 to up to hundreds of acres. I think now they're open more to the 10 acres, the 5 acres. Half an acre is a little difficult even for any kind of open space, unless there's like a critical habitat there, some type of historic site or something like that.
No, I guess I really like the idea. As an educator, I think for children to have even small parcels of land with trees to kind of explore, look at the bugs and the leaves is
Yeah,
great. So I would
agreed.
love for our township to follow suit
Mhm.
and consider smaller, when there's like in a highly developed neighborhood and there happens to be one lot left, like if that's something that we could consider, I would
Yeah,
love
I
to see
agree.
that.
No, I think I agree 100%. Yeah, I think we're of that mindset. I like to think we are. And I know the Environmental Commission is really, honed in on that now.
And
Yeah.
where is open space with like their goal, our open space with goals like this? Is that something that they would be able to consider weaving in anytime soon?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Our open space plan is going to have to be updated soon. Our farmland plan was just updated in 2019. And we don't have a criteria limit for farms. So, it can be 1 acre and, if it fits the criteria, we'll consider it. Our open space plan, I don't know, there's no limit, there's no criteria in terms of the size, but I'm sure it needs to be updated in terms of the goals. So I think they would be open to weaving this in.
All right, so Chuck and John, you got our backs, right?
Yep.
Anybody else? Or before I submit these, just so you know, I'm going to bring them to open space and get their final approval and look-see at it, of course. Same with the farm ones.
Yeah. So Tara, just to clarify again, not to harp on it, but this 24,000 acres, it looks like subtracting that, it looks like the 14,000 is considered recreation, parks,
Right.
and developed areas with trails.
Yes. Yep.
Got it. Okay. No, I just want to make, clarify that.
Yeah.
And with the smaller parcels that Vanessa was talking about, yeah, you have it listed here. It's like to mitigate the heat sink effect. So is that kind of like more in the urban areas of the township, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what the Environmental Commission is focused on, is really looking at those urban areas and so part of that is I've now had to do a bunch of research on the heat island effect and heat mitigation and management. And it's amazing at how much hotter even a neighborhood can be that doesn't have open space near it. It can be anywhere between 3 and 9 degrees hotter in just that neighborhood. So it is really worth looking into, for that purpose only. I mean, there's many other purposes, but I mean, you really could justify it just based on that.
Tara, thank you for putting this together and sharing it with us. It was really valuable.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah. So if you have any more comments, the Open Space Committee meets next week and I won't submit it until, after that. So if you think of anything in the meantime, just email it to me and I'll get it included.
Yeah, I want to say the same thing. I think your comments were good, and it was really interesting to see your breakdown and analysis of it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm watching my daughter. My daughter's like literally standing in front of me doing like a ballet move. So I got like distracted for a minute. So, okay, so yes, if you have any changes, just send them to me or additions, and I'll get them in before the next OSAC meeting.
All right.
Okay, moving on. Old business. Prescribed burns.
So the prescribed burn, I spoke to our steward manager, George Effinger. He's returned from out west, so he's safe and back, which is great news. He looked at both of the proposed burn plans for Negri and for John Clyde, and they're both approved. So he's just getting signatures from his, supervisors to allow that to proceed, and then we should be able, weather dependent, to start the burns in as early maybe as the end of the year, maybe not, because they have so much to do. But he said, there's a possibility it could even be December, but definitely sometime between January and April. So they try and give us as much notice as possible so we can put signage out and everything, and we'll do that just like we did last time.
All right.
Hunting.
Hunting, I don't really have any major updates. I mean, hunting is proceeding. There's the hunting at the 518 property that we acquired just last year. We haven't done anything to it. We just said, okay, we have it now, so let's allow hunting on there. So we gave out 10 permits for that area. It's very heavily wooded, lots of deer in there. But there's been some questions about the access to the property and how that impacts the neighbors and the county road. So as of right now, those permits are suspended, and the people that got those permits can hunt a 10-mile run. And we're going to be investigating the access issues. There's a question about, is the access large enough to accommodate the cars? Is it going to cause a backup on the county road? Is it going to cause a backup or some type of intrusion to the neighbors? So we're like kind of doing some field work and looking into that, but still right now that area is suspended. But other than that, everything else with hunting is, haven't had any problems. Everything's going well.
Tara, I mentioned to you that Ted Chase and I went out and talked to the woman who was complaining about the
Right.
hunters and what triggered this shutting down the hunting in that area. And the problem was that there was just a very narrow strip of land right next to where her lawn chairs and are that hunters had to get access to the property. But Ted and I went back into the property just to see if there was some other way we could create an access point. And actually, I think there is an area that in the middle of the wood area, away from the houses, that we could put a small parking lot in. The county would have to make a curb cut in there, but that would maybe provide a parking area for the hunters that would not distract the citizens, but also it could serve as a trailhead for a new system of trails in that area.
Right, yeah, because that
They-
area for sure, we want to look into doing some kind of trail work in there, but that's, and I said the same thing to the lady, is that, we just got it not too long ago. So like doing hunting on it seemed like the easiest first step, but.
Yeah, I actually talked to 3 hunters at Bunker Hill Road parking lot a few days ago, and they were they were saying, why can't we hunt in the 518 area?
I know.
Apparently they got kicked out, and they're quite anxious to
I know.
to hunt that area. But anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, can I bring up one other item of old business, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead. Isn't that
Yeah, just
details?
I wonder if there's anything we can do. We got contacted by Gloria Fedakowski about doing some more trail walks this winter, and we couldn't find good dates for them to do Sunday trail walks. Gloria was proposing maybe sometime in November, which I think is actually a little late in terms of leaf colors. It would be ideal if we could actually do some trail walks on Sundays in our woods, this last part of October and so on as the leaves are turning. But are people interested in this? I'm having grandchild scheduling problems, which are preventing me from doing this in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But are there other people on the committee that might be wanting or willing to work with recreation to do some Sunday trail walks, maybe starting in first week, second week, third week of November?
First,
Chuck,
second,
I know Gloria had suggested November and December dates.
Mm-hmm.
And so I offered to do 2. She suggested, I guess around 1 o'clock. So I'm definitely willing to do 2 Sunday, lead 2 Sunday hikes.
Mm-hmm. So you're directly talking to Gloria about this, is that
In the email, in the
okay?
email thread.
All right.
So Chuck, do you want us to reach out to Gloria directly with dates, or how do you want us to?
I guess is this something we should directly talk to Gloria about, or should we do this through Tara just to as a joint trails committee recreation?
it's up to you guys. I mean, if you feel okay, since it's you that would be leading it and it's your schedules, if you want to converse with her about that, and then if you need anything like for those events, you can work through me for it. Like if you need anything, but in scheduling it, since you will be the ones doing it, it's probably better you make sure that it works, with your schedule. So
okay, so we should speak directly to Gloria.
yeah, I think you can.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll try to work on coordinating this, I guess, with Gloria, and I'll be in touch with you folks. So
Yeah, Chuck, she replied to my response in the email, and then I CC'd a bunch of people just to kind of avoid
Right.
too much confusion. And then she didn't give back dates, and so I followed back up this evening with date, just saying yes, I could do those dates. She didn't offer us any dates. She just said November or December. So if she could put out there what's going to work for them, and then we could just plug those holes.
Right.
That would be great.
Sure.
Yes, I agree. I think that would be best. Then if you need me to coordinate with her or get anything for it, then I can do that too.
Okay, well, great. So I guess we're all sort of working independently then to work with Gloria to help out.
Is that okay? Does that work with you for you, Chuck, or?
That's okay by me. I mean, I can't do anything for a few weeks, but I will get in touch with Gloria in terms of what I can do.
Okay.
And
Good.
I imagine they would be on different trails than what Vanessa or Anne Marie or other members of the committee might want to do.
Yeah, I would say for the dates, coordinate with Gloria, and then she'll probably send me a list of all the dates and places, and then I can work with her directly on advertising it and all that.
Okay.
Good. And we're
Um,
talking about fitness walks and things like that, or
Well,
walks or
any
slow.
walk I did wouldn't be a fitness walk. I can't walk very far anymore. but I'll provide a biological walk or something like that.
Biological walk.
But we do things in different ways. I mean, I think I know Anne Marie and Vanessa are a lot speedier hikers than I am, and that's great.
Yeah.
There are a number of ways we can do these things.
Right. A lot of people with different interests, get everyone involved. Yep.
Sure. I mean, let's just get people out on the trails.
Yeah. And just one thing, Jim, if I can just say one thing before we go, I'll be super quick about it. I don't know why I didn't put this on the agenda. I should have, but we had the land stewardship roundtable at John Clyde Grasslands. That was coordinated through the Open Space Committee. They asked me a while back, it was like a year ago, if they have this standing committee, Middlesex County, of land stewards. And they were like, oh, we want to go out there and just look around, but can you come and speak to us about the open space program and how it got started and the grasslands and et cetera. So I asked Chuck to come and Chris Williams so that they could talk about it because they have a lot of experience being on those grasslands. So they talked, it was a group of about like 20 people from all different areas across New Jersey. And really some were from Duke Farms, some were just county planners or county park people. And they just were interested in knowing like, what do we do? And then they gave us, I got some great ideas from just talking with them. It was mostly like staff people. But Chuck and Chris Williams were super helpful in talking about some of the other areas that, that I didn't talk about. So I think they really appreciated that. And I told them if they ever want to come back, of course, they're more than welcome. So that was really good. I thought that went off well.
Nice meeting. Yeah.
Great, thanks, guys. No,
Very
that's great.
productive.
And it was good.
Yeah, we nice contacts.
Yeah, it was good. So that was
Tara,
it.
one last question. Membership, any of these applications, are they still not getting to the township clerk or?
The
any-
last I checked with the township clerk, they don't have any applications. So again, I don't know what's going on with that. I'm gonna have to, from what I understand, they don't have any applications in front of
Okay.
them.
I'll bring it up each meeting, so.
Yeah, no, that's
What
good.
is, they don't have any applications? What happened to the one that was, we had that person who came in with Vanessa, who.
Yes.
They never got it. They never
I
got it.
know. And then I did reach out to her and I haven't heard back either. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if there was a problem with the website or I don't know, but all I know is they said they don't have it. And I did reach out to her and I didn't get any response. I'm worried maybe my email is going to spam, although that's not the case because we've talked before. So
After our last meeting, I reached out to her and, she said that you guys had gone back and forth a couple times and she had a death in her family.
yes,
So
yeah.
she's still interested in the position. I guess I have to resubmit the application. Should I reach out to Tara again? And so, I said, yes, resubmit the application and follow up with Tara and let her know that it's done.
Right.
Said she would do that. But I haven't heard, I don't, sounds like that didn't happen.
Yeah, I haven't heard. So if she does tell you, or if you talk to her again that she submitted the application, tell me, and then I will make sure I'll go to the clerk and say this was submitted. Like, please check for it and all that, because it has to basically then just go to the council for approval, and that's the only thing we need to do in order to get her on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So okay, yeah,
Let's keep our feelers
yeah.
out too, just in case.
yeah, absolutely.
If there's an interest, try to push it. I mean, takes two, I guess, but yeah. She needs to respond as well. All right, anything else?
No.
To adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.